Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of unusual post rock, looking at tracks that are definitely in the post rock genre but do things a little bit differently than I've listened to in the past. Today we have a track from Sigur Rós coming up ahead of us. The track is titled
Hjartað hamast.
And it has it translates out to the heart beats, and it has a subtitle as well that's just boom, boom, boom. Or bam, bam, bam in Icelandic, I think. So let's dive into this and see what Sigur Rós is bringing to the table today. Very strange intro. This is definitely post-rock. Everything that's happening around it is not. We have some jazzy rhythmic ideas in the drums. We have the harmonica. And was it a guitar? I think they're kind of giving it a bit of a country vibe. This is just coming in with a ton of distortion there. think this poses an interesting question. If it isn't rock, do we still call it post-rock? Really feel like I should be able to connect with this, and I'm just not for some reason. Like, it's beautiful. I can tell what emotional elements they're going for. But it just kind of bouncing off of me, just strange. Wait, is it over? Oh, for some reason I thought this was a 9-minute track, not a 7. So real quick, I just want to talk a little bit about genre. I kind of feel this as post rock. If post rock is taking the instrumentation of rock and doing new things with it, then post rock would be taking the new things that we did in post rock but doing it without the rock instrumentation. And that's kind of what we get here, and that makes a lot of sense to the fact that this is unusual post rock. It follows in a lot of the same footsteps that we would typically associate with post rock. We have a lot of repetition, a lot of texture based writing with chordal ideas to back it up, not so much melody. And really spending a lot of time in each of these soundscapes and absorbing the atmosphere of them before we move on to the next. It's just, it's done with a jazzy drum pattern. It's done with harmonica. It's done with cello, I think, at one point, and violin, definitely. And the vocals are primarily spoken, or at least sung in a whispered, almost whispered, pitchless kind of style. We certainly do have some more traditional singing later on in the track, but there's several sections which just feel like spoken word to me. And so we end up with a track that feels post rock on the surface, but doesn't feel like rock at all past that. And so I'm kind of curious if there has been an offshoot and a new subgenre brought into play with stuff like this. Now, you know what the song did, though? I've already kind of touched on this a little bit. A lot of the song has, when there is a rhythmic component, it's the drums. And the drums bring a light, swung pattern. It's a very light attack on cymbals. What is it? It's a ride cymbal, right? It's very light, swung, and then we have the sparse snare and bass kick usage to give it a little bit of a rhythmic pattern to it without really adding too much weight or intensity. At the beginning of the track, this was paired with our harmonica and acoustic guitar, I think, and those were both playing music that, at least based on the chords that the melodies were alluding to, felt more bluesy or country-y than anything else. It was interesting to hear that paired with the swung drum line, and then we also got the vocals on top of that, which were very, quiet, very Fry spoken word style. And we had a dreary chord going on in the background too. Might have been a synth. Yeah, in fact, this might have been an electric guitar. Now that I think about it, tons of effects would need to be put on it, and it's probably tremolo picking, but something closer to shoegaze. But it's a possibility that a lot of what I heard in here that I thought was a synth could have been an electric guitar. In which case, it does bring back the idea of post rock because we have the instrumentation, even if the timbre might be a little off from that. Um, we move from this into larger sound spheres with the violin, and like I said, I think the cello in there as well. We get wider synth sounds. Again, could be the guitar. We layer up the vocals, but we also bring it back down and do the opposite and kind of wipe everything out and get down to basics with just one or two things as well. The key thing that takes us through all these moments, though, is, of course, the atmosphere, the chord progressions, the textures to the sounds, the fact that none of this moves rather quickly. Even when we are shifting notes, it's rather slow. We'll sit on this note for 10-15 seconds, then we'll move to this note or chord even, and then we move to this one. There is no urgency at all to get through this track. When you pair that speed with the emotions that the chords are presenting, we get a song that, at least to me, is exceptionally complex, but mostly deals with trying to divvy up and balance an overwhelming melancholy with relief, possibly. It's a more positive feeling, but it isn't something like hope or joy or optimism. I think relief is the one where it's really easy to tinge it with something a little bit more negative while still achieving a positivity out of it. And then there's a few more elements in there that I couldn't quite pick up on. Like I said, the emotional landscape here is quite complex as it is. And so that's that's kind of what I get out of the whole song is lots of held out notes that try to balance these two emotions, and having these rises and falls in complexity and depth and instrumentation. And it feels like that is an exceptionally short way to wrap this up, but that's kind of all I've got with this one. I don't know. Like I said, I should have connected with this one a bit more. I should have been able to feel a story that goes along with it. The emotions are clear as day, aside from some of the more complex ones, but the feelings of those emotions are clear. I just don't have the words to ascribe to what they are. And so I understood the journey. I felt the rises and falls. I felt the expansion of the sounds and um, despansion, the collapsing of sounds, bringing everything back down, the vocal harmonies, the lack of energy throughout all of it. Like, I understand the emotion of it all, but I never found a way to really connect it all into something that created images in my mind or told me a story musically or anything like that. The title of the track makes me think that it would be something to do possibly with love or acceptance or humanity as a whole, the heart beats, right? I mean, that could allude to a lot of stuff, but there's an overwhelming melancholy to the track that, well, I think the best way to figure out what's going on here might just be to dig into the lyrics. So I'm going to do that. I know I need to translate them, so I got a little bit of work ahead of me, but we'll meet back up in a second for you, and we'll discuss what's going on there. It's interesting that I felt elements of relief in here because there's absolutely no peace to be had within the lyrics. It's about feeling outside of oneself and possibly even outside of one's environment, feeling like an anomaly among everyone else who gets it. There's a lot of allusions to discontentment, disappointment, to disillusionment. I mean, basically, if there's a diss word, this dude's probably feeling it. And I think the opening stanza absolutely lands this. It says, "The heart pounds as always, but this time out of rhythm, with time lost and forgotten at home." And I think that's a really good way to sum up what's going on here. Everything is normal, but everything feels different. We have ideas of feeling out of place, both clothed and naked, about wishing you could go back to sleep and not being able to sleep at all. Um, there's even a concept of uh, transcending humanity. It says the heart stops, so I insert a pacemaker and I find a jumper cable, but there's system failure after I turn myself on, so I'll continue my search. Almost as if they feel numb to the world, and even technology isn't helping them feel connected at all. Yeah, there's some interesting ideas in here. But it's just overwhelmingly oppressive in the lack of brightness in any of the lyrics. And like I said, I find it interesting that I kind of hear an element of relief in the music, unless some of the lines here about trying things and them failing is has a sense of relief to it. I'm glad it failed because at least that makes sense. If any of these decisions actually worked, I wouldn't know what to do. There's comfort in the known, even if what you know is not great. All right. Feels a bit short, especially for a track like this, but I don't like to take up anyone's time more than I should, and that's honestly all I have to say about this one. So feel free. Those are my thoughts on this track, but feel free to let me know in the comments your thoughts. If you have your own perspectives, if you think I missed something, if there's things you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on or any of that, put that stuff down in the comments and we'll start up a conversation about that. I mean, it might just be that this song went over my head and there should have been something really obvious here that I just didn't click with. Above the comment section in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree in there. It takes you here. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, so that wraps this one up. We also have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, see you guys tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we'll continue on with this week's theme and explore another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.